People are asking me about the University of Florida law student who wrote a paper claiming that the Constitution was written only for white people. Now, what he does with that argument is monstrous. I had to go read it. Blech. But when you come to the end of it, you got to ask yourself, what if he's right? What if he's right about the premise? What if he's right about the founding? What if he's right about the Constitution? Hey folks, I'm Tad Sturmer. I read all kinds of crap so you don't have to. No, I actually expect you to read it too, then we can talk about it. I'm an historian of the University of Southern Denmark and Johns Hopkins and the author of the forthcoming Resistance History of the United States. So let's do what I do every day in writing a resistance history, is confront some deeper truths, no matter how unsavory they end up being. And I'm not interested in going into Damsky's authoritarian fantasy, his fever dream, but the reality that the original Constitution was a white ethnostate. And it wasn't fundamentally challenged until the Civil War and Reconstruction. It's not the first time you'll hear that point made here. But you've probably seen the headlines about this by now. So this law student at the University of Florida writes this paper. And it claims that the Constitution was written only for white people, okay? And that it should be interpreted that way. Well, all right. That voting rights should be stripped from non-white citizens. Not all right. That shoot-to-kill orders should be used at the border. Horrific. And that the country should be reclaimed by force for its original racial core. Really. And then, of course, a federal judge, John Battlementi, slightly to the right of Vidkun Quisling, gives it an academic award. And the reaction has been outrage, horror, condemnation, rightfully so. The use of the police power to enforce racial supremacy is final solution territory. And what Damsky advocates is the ideology of white nationalist authoritarianism, an attempt to rebrand fascism as constitutional fidelity, and is represented by core people at the heart of the current regime. But this is the part that we need to talk about. What if he's right about the origins? Not what we should do about it. That's ridiculous. But about what we were. What if the Constitution was written for white people? What if his premise is right? What if the original republic, the first republic, the one that so many originalists want to recover, and so many apologists on the left today hold up as a model, they love trotting out these quotes by Thomas Jefferson, was in fact a white ethnostate in both form and function? Because he didn't invent that reading. He's just not pretending it's an American liberal fantasy. We the people in 1787 did not mean all people. It meant white men. Citizenship was limited by law explicitly to free white persons. The Constitution protected slavery at every turn. It counted enslaved people as 3/5 of a person, denied them legal standing, and forced free states to return them to bondage. And the men who wrote it? Nearly all enslavers or their political enablers. In fact, their ideology, patriot republicanism, demanded it. The liberty of white men required property in black people. So take a minute before you reach for your copy of Gordon Wood and you start adding me with quotes from it. Damsky's paper is not a perversion of the original Constitution. It's a faithful reading of it. And if that unsettles you, good. It should. Because we've spent centuries covering up that foundation with myth, pretending that the Constitution in its original form held the promise of universal liberty. It didn't. It held the promise of white liberty, secured by black bondage. That didn't begin to change until the Civil War, 80 years later, generations later. And even then, not by amendment alone, but by body count. The Reconstruction amendments were an attempt to shatter the racial foundations of the original republic. The 13th abolished slavery, the 14th redefined citizenship, the 15th prohibited racial disenfranchisement. And they eliminated the artificial political racism of the 3/5 clause. The United States had to be rebuilt to even begin to imagine a multiracial democracy. It took a second founding to challenge the first, the creation of a new republic. The war was not just about secession. It was a battle between those who believed this nation could become a democracy and those who fought to keep it a white supremacist republic. It's no coincidence that George Washington is literally at the center of the Great Seal of the Confederate States of America. Damsky sees that too. And the people who support him see that too. His nightmare is that the Reconstruction amendments worked, that we might still, even now, finish what those amendments started, fulfill the promise of the Second Republic. So, no, we don't share his solution, but we need to reckon with the same foundation. Because if we keep teaching the Constitution as a vessel of timeless liberty rather than a racial project that had to be torn apart to make liberty possible, we're not on the side of justice. We're just, laundering the past. So what Damsky has done openly, grotesquely, is draw a straight line between the Founders' Constitution and the white nationalist ideology still with us, still informing this country, still running this government. But he did it without the moral filter, without the patriotic polish, without the liberal soft lens. And while the backlash to his paper is legit, it's also a waste of time if it doesn't force us to confront the hard question, what if he's right about what the Constitution was built to be, what it was built to do? Because once you answer that, the next question becomes unavoidable. What are we really trying to restore when we talk about original intent? What are you really doing when you visit Mount Vernon or donate to Colonial Williamsburg or post that Thomas Jefferson quote or turn on that Ken Burns documentary? What country are you endorsing? Are you too, in a sense, an originalist?